Now I think we're moving on to our performance review, was it, of our not friends,
of our Democratic leadership.
Our
That's the
Democratic
Democratic Party leadership.
Democratic Party leadership, the party of the people, the party that allegedly will defend us from ICE, from Trump, from the far right. How are they doing on that front, Rania?
Well, there is a congressman from New York. You might know him, Zoe. His name is Hakeem Jeffries. He is the House Minority Leader who is up to be the next Speaker of House if he's chosen by the Democratic Party leadership in Congress to do that. I mentioned Hakeem Jeffries because he voted no, I believe yesterday, on Republican Congressman Thomas Massie's amendment to strip $3.3 billion in military aid to Israel from the State Department's 2027 funding bill. Now, this puts Hakeem Jeffries at odds with a supermajority of his own party's voters. Just a little over a month ago, a New York Times Siena poll found that 74% of Democrats oppose sending Israel any further military and economic aid. Now, if Hakeem Jeffries is the leader of those voters, you would think that it would be reflected in the way he votes on this bill put forth by Thomas Massie, but he voted no. And here's the timeline, by the way. I want to note that in May, Hakeem Jeffries' joint fundraising committee received the largest earmarked contribution in the history of AIPAC's PAC, $149,300. That's a lot of money. 2 months later, he came out against cutting that $3.3 billion in aid to Israel as it's committing genocide. So you do the math there. And, this is nothing new for Hakeem Jeffries. He has been a staunch advocate of Israel. He's one of the biggest recipients of AIPAC money in the House, over $1 million. You can go look at Track AIPAC, which is a great website that literally tracks. You can see how much money from AIPAC members of Congress have received. But Zoe, I actually want to play a clip of Jeffries. It's from 2014, which might sound a bit dated, but it's really important because this is during one of Israel's, mowing the lawn wars on Gaza. That's what the Israelis would refer to these frequent periodic wars on Gaza as mowing the lawn, because that's the dehumanizing language they use when it comes to Palestinians. This was Operation Protective Edge. It was a 51-day assault in the summer of 2014 that killed over 2,000 Palestinians. The vast majority of them were civilians. I know that number may seem small compared to how many people Israel's killed now, but back in 2014, it was still a big deal to kill 2,000 Palestinians in the course of 51 days. Of course, now, we don't even actually know the real number of Palestinians who've been killed in the genocide in Gaza, but 2,000 people, that was a big deal. Still should be a big deal. Yeah. This was in the middle of that horrific crime. Jeffries went to a pro-Israel rally in New York City where before I tell you the part of this I really want to emphasize, let's go ahead and play that clip.
Israel faced aggression in 1948 and Israel prevailed. And then you faced aggression in 1967 and Israel prevailed. And then you faced aggression in 1973 and Israel prevailed. And then you had to deal with the first intifada and Israel prevailed. And Israel had to deal with the second intifada and Israel prevailed. And then missiles were flying in December of 2008 and Israel prevailed. And then missiles were flying in November of 2012, and Israel prevailed. And so I'm confident that when it's all said and done, we're going to stand together. Israel today, Israel tomorrow, Israel forever. God bless you.
So I want to get your take on this, Zoe, but I just want to note to our audience, in case you did not pick up on this, Israel today, Israel tomorrow, Israel forever. Now, this is a black man, okay? And he is taking words that, when I think of the words that he said, what comes to mind is the segregationist George Wallace, who was infamous for declaring segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. And that is what echoes in my head when I hear Hakeem Jeffries stating the apartheid state of Israel today, Israel tomorrow, and Israel forever. And that is basically a perfect encapsulation of Hakeem Jeffries' relationship to Israel throughout his career. And again, totally out of line with the majority of his party, doesn't care. And even, I just want to note, even Nancy Pelosi voted for this bill. The former Speaker of the House, who was staunchly pro-Israel. I'll get into the numbers because this was not like all the Democrats voted with the Republicans. Actually, a minority of Democrats did, and Hakeem Jeffries was one of them. But I just want to get your take on what I've said so far in that clip I just showed.
It's interesting. I mean, that clip could have been from kind of whenever, no? Because it's like it's not, it's not reflected. I mean, he says Israel was attacked, Israel prevailed, and all of these instances when Israel was the aggressor against the Palestinian people. So it's like, I mean, it's insanity. It's a very, it's just an AIPAC talking point. It's not really rooted in any real, and even saying that 48 is the same as 67, same as 73, same as I'm sad that he didn't say how did people mispronounce the intifada?
Oh, infratada. They say infratada.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little sad that he didn't say infratada, but otherwise, he studied the script, unlike those Fox News reporters.
Right. Exactly. But you're absolutely right that those are like AIPAC talking points fed to him. The guy has no convictions. He is a careerist who's bought and paid for, and then, toes the corporate Democrat Party line, because the Democratic Party is a corporation. Now, this is the man that Democrats want to hand the speaker's gavel to. And even Democrats who should actually be using their leverage not to, like Brad Lander, won a Democratic primary in New York last month, and he won against Dan Goldman, who's like a horrible person. But fresh off of beating this AIPAC-backed candidate, Dan Goldman, in his New York primary, Brad Lander posted 2 days after that victory, quote, "Thank you, Hakeem Jeffries. Looking forward to electing you speaker in January." Just gave it to him.
Right.
AOC has also similarly said she will back Jeffries as speaker. She has said that on multiple occasions, just giving it to him. These people are handing their support unconditionally to a man arming a country, committing genocide. Like, why are you giving it away like that? And this is, I think, what separates, I don't want to be too name calling here, but I think this is what separates climbers from people who put making the world better ahead of their careers. We saw people like Claire Valdez and Darializa, who also won their primaries in New York City against establishment-backed candidates. They refused to commit to Jeffries without conditions. And Claire Valdez told me in an interview for BT Live last week that one of those conditions is ending funding for Israel. Mm-hmm. So leverage is the only thing that pressures these centrists to move. And that goes for the speaker's gavel, you guys. And it goes for the top of the ticket as well. So what's the point of winning office to push a progressive agenda if you refuse to use your leverage?
Well,
this is a man.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, they're not going to be able to pass legislation. It's this is all you can really do is prevent someone who is bought and paid for by AIPAC from becoming the speaker of your own party. What else are you holding on to rise to the top eventually?
Yeah, and let there be a price for it. And on top of that, you are actually just answering to the desires of the majority of your base. And you're not these aren't people who are taking AIPAC money. So it's not there's going to be consequences, especially in your very progressive districts, if you push back against this. But also what is the point, unless it's for yourself? What is the point of playing ball with somebody who wants to continue arming a genocide? And let's look at the actual vote here. This amendment, this bill failed 104 to 314. But the breakdown is super interesting because 103 Democrats voted yes to cut aid to Israel. That includes Minority Whip Catherine Clark and, like I mentioned, Nancy Pelosi. That's a major shift. It's 98 Democrats who joined Republicans to vote no. And that includes Hakeem Jeffries and, of course, another massive AIPAC recipient. He's like gotten double the amount of Jeffries from AIPAC. That's Richie Torres, also from New York. And another 10 Democrats hid behind present. So like they weren't even willing to put their name on a no or yes. But it speaks to how important this issue has come. 215 Republicans voted no. That's every single Republican except for Thomas Massie himself, which, by the way, like that Republican number, I think exposes the whole GOP is turning on Israel talking point as a mirage, right? Like Tucker Carlson's positions are not being represented in this party as an institution at all. And that idea that MAGA is like the path to ending American support for Israel is just utter propaganda. And that's not to say the Democratic Party is the answer, but the shift in the Democratic base is creating so much pressure that even someone with like no convictions, like Seth Moulton, felt compelled to announce he'd vote yes. Like he had a whole statement about it ahead of the vote that he was going to vote yes. And so did like a bunch of other Democrats who you wouldn't expect to hear that from. So, you know, going back to the fact that like Hakeem Jeffries is a total hack. He is somebody who is supporting a genocide, like an ongoing live stream genocide against the will of his base to please AIPAC and other corporate PACs. And to please the shareholders of the Democratic Party, what are you doing by giving away your support to this man for Speaker of House if you claim to care about genocide and oppose continuing to send to Israel limitless amounts of military aid? It's just completely outrageous. Another important thing to watch inside the Senate, in this case, is that Democrats led by Senators Chris Van Hollen and Bernie Sanders have blocked the annual defense bill from advancing. The motion got 50 votes, short of the 60 needed, but with Democrats basically united against both the war on Iran and provisions that we've covered on this show that would essentially integrate the U.S. and Israeli military and intelligence apparatus. That would make them, you know, combine them into one. And that would basically be a way to sidestep what Israel is very, understanding quite well, that they have a short runway for how much longer they can get limitless aid, especially when you have more Democrats than not literally voting to cut the $3.3 billion State Department funding that goes to Israel. So this is a must-pass Pentagon bill, stopped in part over Israel. I mean, this is quite remarkable, and it's further evidence of the U.S., again, moving away from Israel. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Finally, I do want to get into, I feel like this is tangentially related, Zoe, this incredible exchange that took place between Congressman Ro Khanna and Jeremy Scahill. Jeremy basically called out Ro's contradictions in refusing to acknowledge the Palestinian right to fight back against Israeli soldiers who are mass murdering them, while at the same time defending Israel's access to so-called defensive weapons like Iron Dome, which Jeremy very aptly compared to protecting a sniper. Right. And I just want to say, like, I really do appreciate Congressman Ro Khanna pushing back against Israeli atrocities. I mean, he was just in the West Bank last week and was quite rattled, as he should be, by the way that he was like basically detained by armed Israeli settlers. But I still think, regardless of how great he's been, these kinds of contradictions need to be called out, because Ro Khanna, and I'm going to play a couple clips. It's quite long. I actually encourage people to go watch it. It's like 15-minute back and forth between Jeremy and Ro Khanna. But I'm just going to play a couple clips from it. But before I do, I just want to note, like, Jeremy got very upset and quite emotional because of the fact that Ro Khanna was saying that while he supports cutting off, like the bill, he supported Thomas Massie's bill, he does not support restricting Israel's access to quote unquote defensive weapons. Which that's what Jeremy compared to like protecting a sniper who's committing genocide, which is exactly what that is. And he also continued to reiterate his belief that Israel has the right to go after Hamas, but Palestinians do not have the same right to use violence against Israelis who are attacking them, Israeli soldiers. And he called that, I think that hypocrisy needs to be called out. I appreciate that he called that out. Jeremy is somebody who, is... he's in alternative media, but he's also kind of mainstream. So having someone like that bring in this argument to a congressperson shifts the Overton window. And I guess before I'll say more, let's play that first clip of Jeremy versus Ro Khanna.
Would you say this about apartheid South Africa? I've heard you talk
well,
about
because I think, because I do
give me another
think
example where you say it's okay to continue any level of support for an openly genocidal society that has mass murdered 80,000 people, more than 300 media workers, has invaded Lebanon, has bombed Iran, and you're saying, oh, but we need to protect civilians. This isn't about protecting civilians. The greatest threat to their civilians is their policy. And so I don't understand why you have even one qualified shred of support for a sniper mass murderer masquerading as the only democracy in the Middle East.
So that's Jeremy responding to Ro Khanna saying like he doesn't think it's right to restrict Israel's access to quote unquote defensive weapons like Iron Dome. And Ro Khanna was trying to argue that like the Iron Dome protects Israeli civilians. What's wrong with protecting Israeli civilians? And Jeremy was again framing it as like, but you're protecting snipers from like the consequences of their actions. But also Iron Dome and Israel's other layers of air defense actually are stationed around Israel's military installations.
Right.
So it's not like, this idea that they're like protecting the infant ward at a hospital is just not accurate. Mm-hmm. But regardless, and then, Jeremy goes in harder on the double standard about what violence is allowed. So let's play clip number 2.
Do Palestinians have a right to kill Israeli soldiers, Congressman? On October 7th, when they attacked the military bases in the Gaza envelope, did the Qassam brigades and Surah al-Quds have a right to kill Israeli soldiers? Yes or no? On October 7th, did Palestinians have a right to attack Israeli military bases in the Gaza envelope? Yes or no?
I mean, I think October 7th attack was a terrorist attack, so I don't justify.
Was it a terrorist attack when the first targets that were hit on the morning of October 7th were multiple military bases? Did Palestinian forces have a right to attack those military bases?
I am not for violence again in any way. I mean, I am for making sure that we end the occupation.
Do they have a right to do it, Congressman? Do they have a right to attack Israeli soldiers?
No, I'm not going to say that Hamas had a right to attack Israeli soldiers or kill Israelis. Like I don't think that advances peace or advances Palestinian statehood.
Does Israel have a right to drop a single bomb on Gaza in response to October 7th?
I believe Israel had the right to get people who killed the civilians, but not in the way they went about it, which I've said is genocide.
So this is a massive double standard, like a massive double standard. So Israel has the right to attack Hamas. Just not happy with the way they went about it, but they have a right to use violence. Palestinians do not. And I just want to note that Ro Khanna, because this became such a topic of controversy the last couple of days since this exchange took place, Ro Khanna tweeted out today, I believe Palestinians have the right to dignity and statehood. I believe they have the right not to be beaten or occupied. The best way to achieve this is through nonviolence and having America and the world recognize their claims to justice. Gandhi succeeded. My grandfather spent 4 years in jail in that movement. King succeeded. I believe with a new generation of young people in America seeing the moral stakes of this issue, Palestinians will finally see justice. So the invocation of Gandhi and King. If you're going to play the pacifism card, you can't go around also saying Israel has a right to attack Palestinians. Like, you have to be consistent. If you want to be a pacifist about it, I still think it's completely outrageous, and I object to the idea that Palestinians need to take genocide lying down. But at least your take would land better if there wasn't a selective right here that you're just giving to one side.
Well, also under international law, people under occupation and colonial domination do have the right to armed resistance. So it is actually enshrined in international law in the Geneva Convention, I believe. So just
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And that has always been the case, by the way. I mean, I do and I also want to say, during his exchange with Jeremy, he basically invoked Gandhi, invoked MLK, and said that he thinks it would behoove Palestinians to respond nonviolently because then the world would care and be on their side more. The world is on their side.
Right.
And also, Jeremy made a really good point. The Great March of Return not that long ago, where Palestinians in Gaza approached Israel's disgusting cage, their fence, their dystopian, high-tech fence that keeps Palestinians caged in Gaza, non-violently with no weapons. And what did Israeli soldiers do? They fired on non-violent Palestinian protesters day after day. They held competitions over who could blow out the most Palestinian kneecaps through sniper rifles. The world did nothing. Palestinians have died in the exact way he's asking for, and nothing changed. I think it's actually outrageous to demand that people who are being annihilated respond peacefully and non-violently, because it would make Americans in America feel better about supporting them. That's ridiculous, dude. They've
also,
been
the
responding
majority of
non-violently.
Americans do support Palestinians.
The problem is in Congress.
Right. The problem is this. Yeah, his party, actually. So
Exactly. And the other thing too is I'm like, dude, you're not even taking AIPAC money. Like, you're saying this because this is what you believe. And this is why I think what Jeremy did is really important, because this is not to like drag someone who I actually think has been really useful on this issue in Congress. I mean, he was pushing Massie's amendment. He's pushed other amendments. He's been pushing back against Israeli atrocities, but he's also demonstrated an ability to evolve and move. He has moved even since October 7th on the way he discusses this. There was a while where he wouldn't even call it a genocide, I think. So some people I know thought Jeremy went too far. That's not how you treat an ally. It's too much to demand of a member of Congress to affirm the Palestinian right to armed resistance. But I actually disagree with that. I think this shifts the Overton window so that recognizing that basic right becomes more mainstream. Or at least moves things so that other things can become more mainstream that maybe weren't before. Because Palestinians have always had the right to defend themselves against violence with violence, as you just said, with the Geneva Convention enshrines that into law. So do the Lebanese, by the way, and so do any people facing aggression or land theft or colonialism or annihilation. We would never sit and look at the Holocaust and say, wow, Jews should have responded to that with nonviolence. Like, that would be insane. That would be insane. But Palestinians and Arabs have been so dehumanized that it's shocking or wild to even consider the idea that you could challenge a member of Congress on the fact that international law actually says that they can absolutely use violence against people trying to genocide them. It's like heartening to see that basic right being openly discussed in progressive spaces for the first time since I can remember. But I just I wonder, like, why did it take until 2026 for this to be a conversation? And why is it still so controversial? Again, very encouraged by how far this conversation has shifted, but quite sad about how long it has taken for this to even be a conversation that's allowed to be had in the more mainstream progressive spaces. That's basically just like what I want to say on that. And I hope Khanna keeps moving on that. And I hope people keep pushing him. And, one thing I heard Jeremy say after that exchange in the conversation with his colleagues on Drop Site after was, because there was, I think, maybe a little bit of pushback from Ryan Grimm or like trying to kind of defend Khanna's position or say like, actually, he's on our side, was Jeremy was like, look, we're not here to fluff up these politicians. No, yeah. Like, we're journalists. We're here to challenge them. And, I got to say, like, Jeremy is somebody who I used to watch before I was a journalist, and who that kind of passion and attitude from him is part of what made me want to go into alternative media and be an independent journalist. And he's absolutely right. We are not here to fluff these people up. We are here to push and challenge them. And so I'm very, very happy he did what he did, because the other side, the AIPAC side, the pro-Israel side, the imperialist side, is pushing so much money into trying to suppress the public will here. Like in Michigan, Haley Stevens, who is a representative in Congress, who says that Israel comes into her in her dreams, has actually pulled a bit ahead of Abdul El-Sayed in the latest Detroit News poll in Michigan for that Senate seat for the Democratic primary, 48-41. That's after tens of millions of dollars in outside money has flooded that race, most of it to boost her, including AIPAC's super PAC. So I just want to throw that in there, that like while the base is definitely more in line with the way we talk about Palestine and Israel, they're not having it. They're not going to, the AIPACs, the imperialists are not going to go out without a fight. They're still trying to buy politicians. And it's not set in stone that they won't succeed at doing that. And so I think as journalists, it's very important that we continue to push these issues, even when it comes to the politicians who aren't taking AIPAC money and who are claiming to be on our side. We have to push them to be better.
Yeah. No, I mean, 100% agree. And again, notably, this bill you mentioned was pushed by Thomas Massie, who has also been ousted. It was just ousted in a primary. I mean, he's essentially using these last months to push for this. Again, we are definitely not aligned with him on many things, but he has taken a quite principled stance on this. And it's what else are people there for? Because whatever you do, Khanna, whatever he does, they're going to try to fight him. So you may as well honestly, it was kind of horrifying to hear him say that Israel has the right to attack Hamas, and Hamas is man, we are not.
Come on.
Bro. It's not October 2023. It's anyway. So it just. It evolves, and I think you're right. The way that politics has fundamentally shifted in the United States, it has to keep shifting. And these public conversations with people who are elected officials showing that they can talk about these issues is also part of it. It's people being on the streets, popularizing it, but also normalizing something that is in other countries normal. It is only in the United States where it had to move from basically never talking about Palestine and Palestine being a career-ending topic to now where you actually have to address it. And that doesn't just happen magically or overnight. It's due to multiple factors on the streets and of people pushing these topics to these elected officials.
And one last thing I'll add to everything you're saying is it's interesting for me to watch this from afar, being in a place like Lebanon, where it's a no-brainer, and it's always been a no-brainer. Of course, Palestinians have the right to resist with weapons against people occupying and stealing their land and killing their families and bulldozing their homes. Just of course, the Lebanese have a right to fire back at people who are invading their country, trying to steal their land, have blown up 60 villages, have partially or completely destroyed 60 villages in South Lebanon. And that's a stated Israeli policy. By the way, they put that under the auspices of defensive. Ro Khanna talking about giving defensive weapons to Israel. The Israelis consider everything they're doing defensive. None of this is considered offensive to them. Blowing up houses, blowing up tens of thousands of houses in 60 villages in South Lebanon, and making sure nobody can ever return, and creating a buffer zone, a no man's land of post-apocalyptic moonscape, is considered by the Israelis to be an act of defense. So that's that word is just that there's no distinguishing here. There needs to be an arms embargo. There needs to be sanctions on that country. And that is what we should be demanding of these people who claim they're not getting AIPAC money. They don't answer to the Israel lobby. They answer to their base. They answer to justice. I'm not saying Ro Khanna needs to run around demanding we arm Palestinians or we arm the Lebanese. I'm saying, at the very least, cut Israel off completely, make no excuses for them, give them zero allowance to touch a hair on the head of a single Palestinian, Hamas or not Hamas. No questions asked, at the very least. And whatever else you think about it, fine, I don't care. But at the very least,